to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/Great Detective. An important announcement. If you have show-related questions or comments about an acting performance or something I said on the podcast, continue to email me at box13@greatdetectives.net. I may or may not end up reading your comments on the podcast, but I will read them. I read everything that gets sent in. If you have a technical question, such as, where is today's episode? The audio sounded a bit off on the program in a certain place, or just any sort of weird thing that happens technically, then you'll want to email Andrew Rhines, and that's Andrew at greatdetectives.net. He's the host of the OTR Westerns podcast, and he produces the podcast, handles the sound editing. He has access to the website, the podcast host, and he's got the skills to address any of these problems. And for the next 7 or 8 weeks, reach out to him if you have a technical issue. As I've mentioned before, I'm going to be stepping back from recording new episodes of the podcast and most other podcast management functions for the next 7 to 8 weeks so that I can be there for my wife in the final weeks of her pregnancy and help to welcome our son to the world. Now, this does not mean that you won't be getting podcast episodes. They are all recorded and in the can, so to speak. I've got 49 episodes recorded in advance. This past week, someone contacted me and sent me a note very kindly, assuming I decided to take a day off because an episode wasn't showing up in a certain location. Like I said, I appreciate the thought, but that's not really how the recording schedule works. If I decide to take a day off, I'll make up for it recording on another day. All of a given week's episodes are recorded the previous week. I mean, occasionally I've made a goof and I've had to record something on the QT, but it's been a few years since that's ever happened. So you should be getting 6 episodes per week of the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio, a 6-week series of The Amazing World of Radio starting on Wednesday, and 2 Easter specials on The Amazing World of Radio. Those should all be up. And if there are any technical problems, email Andrew at greatdetectives.net. Now, with that all out of the way, let's get into this week's episode of Casey Crime Photographer. Original air date, August the 11th, 1949, and the title is The Death of a Stranger.
Crime Photographer. Good evening. This is Ken Roberts, and inviting you to listen to another adventure of Casey, Crime Photographer, ace cameraman who covers the crime news of a great city. Written by Alonzo Dean Cole, our adventure for tonight, Death of a Stranger. Morning, a little after 10 o'clock. Behind a massive desk in the richly appointed office that is a part of his home sits Robert Hyden, whose lucrative business is the buying and selling of rare stamps. A door opens and his brother enters.
What do you want, Ronald?
An old fellow outside wants to see you.
Who is he?
He wouldn't give me his name. He said you'd know who he was if I told you he has, the 3 skilling orange error.
He has the 3 skilling orange error?
Well, don't ask me for an explanation. He wouldn't give me any.
For your information, Ronald, the 3 skilling orange error is a Swedish stamp. The only one known to exist is owned by an ex-king who would be a most unlikely visitor to this office. Your man outside is a nut. Get rid of him.
But the old chap acted perfectly
I
sane.
said get rid of him.
Very well.
Oh, wait, Ronald. Can't you learn the least thing about a secretary's duties?
I've done something wrong again?
You've just wasted my time, Ronald. Look, I've had to support you most of your life, and mine. When my son Horace was taken ill, you offered to take over his job. But you've been nothing but a bother. Now, file these letters, and correctly, please. I'm going upstairs and see Horace.
He's gone out for a walk.
Why, the doctor told him to stay in bed. Oh, that young fool. If he has a relapse when I need him, I'll see if he's gone out. Answer that telephone and say that I'm out. Wait. I'm expecting a call from my son, Arthur. If it's him on the wire, say I'll have that check for him this afternoon, and not to bother me about it before then.
What check?
Oh, he'll know about it. Pick up that telephone. I'm going up the back stairs.
Robert Hayden's office. His secretary speaking.
Well, you're learning, Uncle Ronald. Soon you'll be a better secretary than I am.
Oh, it's you, Horace.
Mm-hmm. Is Dad there?
He just went upstairs to raise the dickens if he found you out of bed.
Well, I'm down in Market Square. I walked all the way here, and I feel fine.
Oh, your dad won't like it.
Does he ever like anything I do or you do? The only member of the family who ever gets a decent word out of him is my little brother, Arthur. Is he around now?
No, but your father's expecting him, I think, to pick up a check.
Another check for the fair-haired boy, huh? When I want extra money, the old man tells me to live on the salary he pays me.
Well, now, Horace, your father tries to
Dad!
be...
Uncle Ronald!
What?
Come here! Someone help!
What was that, Uncle?
Your brother, Arthur, he's yelling. Hold the wire, Horace.
Uncle Ronald!
What's wrong, Arthur?
I just came into the outer office, and I found that man. Look at him.
Good.
Arthur, Ronald, what's going on here? Who is that?
That's the stranger who wanted to see you, Robert, the man who gave me that message.
There's a knife in his throat. I found him slumped in the chair like that. Is he dead?
Yes, Arthur, the man's dead. Looks like suicide.
What's your verdict, Doctor?
This man did not commit suicide, Captain Logan.
I told you this was a murder, pal.
Shut up, Casey. Go on, Doc.
The knife entered the old fellow's neck at an impossible angle for self-infliction.
Oh, it seems I never get an easy one. The people in this house say they never saw the guy until this morning. They have no idea who he is or why he came here. Can we have the knife now, Doc?
Yes, I'm finished.
Muller, dust it for fingerprints. And you, Sergeant, make a thorough search of the body.
Yes, sir.
Can I interview the people who found the body now, Captain?
You've already interviewed her, Miss Williams, and Casey got their pictures.
You sent him upstairs before we could finish our job,
That's
pal.
all we know
It's
about.
all I know so far. We heard exactly the same story from Robert Hayden, his brother, and his two sons.
No prints on the knife, Captain.
That's just swell. Did you find anything on the body, Sergeant?
Looks to me like the killer went through the guy's pockets, Captain.
How about identifying marks in his clothing?
No labels, no laundry marks to help us either. The guy must have had a wife who washed his clothes, or he did it himself.
He doesn't look to me like a fellow who'd do his own laundry.
Why?
Well, look at his face. You can tell he was a nervous, sensitive, artistic type, Logan. His kind go dirty before they'll do boresome jobs like washing clothes. Yeah, this guy had an interesting face, Annie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a nice face.
At a time like this, you talk about an interesting face? Sergeant, ask the Haydens to come downstairs, all of them. I want to talk to him again.
Right, Captain?
You think one of them may have been the killer, Captain?
Miss Williams, how can I think anything yet about this case?
I merely asked.
Hayden has quite a fancy setup in this big old house, hasn't he?
He's many times a millionaire.
Did he make his dough in the rare stamp business, Logan?
No, in the stock market. I understand he made a big killing there and sorted the proceeds away, quit speculating, and made a business out of what had been his...
I've heard that he's recognized as one of the world's greatest authorities on philately.
On what, Annie?
Philately. It means stamp collecting.
Oh.
You wish to ask us further questions, Captain?
Yes, Mr. Hayden. Come in, all of you.
Well, I'm sure there's nothing any of us can tell you.
This lower floor of your house is devoted entirely to your business, Mr. Hayden?
Yes, it's kept separate from my living quarters. My clients enter this reception room directly from the street as they'd enter a shop. My private office is in there, and my secretary has a room off that door.
Your son has acted as your secretary?
My eldest son, Horace, until several weeks ago when he was taken ill. Since then, my brother has attempted the work.
Very clumsily, I'm afraid.
Of course, you might have trained Arthur to take my place, Dad.
I have no head for business, Horace.
You simply have no head, Art.
Now, look, that's enough, boys.
Mr. Ronald, you say the stranger gave you the impression that his message about the 3-skilling orange error would mean something to your brother?
Mr. Casey...
The stranger couldn't have given such an impression. He didn't know me, and I didn't know him.
My question was addressed to Ronald, Mr. Hayden.
Well, I did believe the stranger knew you, Robert. He seemed so confident that you'd see him.
You're a fool.
Now, Mr. Hayden, you left your private office shortly after you received the stranger's message.
Yes?
You didn't come into this reception room then?
No. I went directly up the back stairs, and I didn't come down until I heard my son Arthur yelling for help. I thought something was happening to him.
Arthur.
Yes, Captain?
You said you walked in here from the street and saw the dead man.
That's right. I've never seen a fellow just stabbed himself. It seemed all I could do was yell for help.
At that time, Horace, you were talking to your uncle over the phone, huh?
Yes, Mr. Casey. I'd called Dad's office from a booth in the Market Square drugstore. I held the wire while Uncle Ronald went to learn the reason for Arthur's yells, and when he came back on the wire and told me the reason, well, I naturally flagged a cab and hurried home.
You reached here before we cops did, Mr. Horace.
Yes, you policemen certainly took your time in getting
Well,
here.
if you'd correctly reported the stranger's death, we'd have come here faster, Mr. Hayden.
What do you mean?
You said the man had committed suicide, but we found a murder.
Murder? That man didn't kill himself?
He did not kill himself.
Well, but then, who killed him?
And why?
That's something I think one of you 4 men can tell me.
Now he's thinking, Annie.
Yes, Casey. And I wonder where it'll get him.
Just a minute, Mr. Nestor Camp. I'm fixing up your order. You say Logan got nowheres with them Haydens, huh, Casey?
No, nowhere at all, Ethelbert. They haven't changed their stories a bit.
And the victim's identity has to be known before Captain Logan can hope to prove that one of the Haydens or anybody had reason to kill him.
Logan lost his sense of values on this one, Annie. Showed his hand too soon.
There's no new clue to the stranger's identity, huh?
Nope.
That makes things really tough. You think any one of them Haydens could have done it except the one who was telephoning from Market Square?
I don't know. And we won't know anything about this stranger until... You know, that guy's face haunts me, Annie.
No, it's the kind of a face that you don't forget.
Yeah. If the paper had print that close-up I took of him...
Yeah, somebody would be sure to identify it.
Why won't they print it?
But did you ever see a close-up of a guy with a fresh knife wound in his throat?
No.
Well, you won't. In any family newspaper, Ethelbert. Too many customers wouldn't like it.
Well, I'm a customer, and I wouldn't object.
Well, all right, pal. You asked for it. Here's the picture I took of the dead stranger.
Oh.
You see?
Yeah. Hey, that dead guy is Mr. Carfora.
What?
He lives in my neighborhood, Casey.
Well, where?
Oh, who was he?
Where? What was he?
Mr. Carfora owns a little old house on Bay Street, just back of the lumber yard. He and my sister Edna sent their clothes to the same wash lady. And she says he'd done some kind of work in his house, but she didn't know what.
Annie, we're going to that house on Bay Street right now.
First, I'm going to kiss Ethelbert.
Blue Note Cafe, Ethelbert Oh, Miss Williams.
That must be the place, Casey.
Yeah, it is the place, kid. It's the only house in the back of the lumber yard.
Well, it's so dark, I can't see whether that's lumber piled back there or what.
Wait, I got a flashlight here.
We should have phoned Captain Logan to join us.
We'll let that lug in on this after our exclusive is in the bag. Come on, Annie.
You're going to break into the house?
Oh, not break in exactly. I'm kind of handy at opening doors without causing any damage.
Well, I hope we can find something in there that establishes a motive for Carfara's killing.
I have a hunch we will find something.
Casey!
Explosion!
It was in Carfara's home.
Hey, look, the place is on fire.
That man!
He's running from the house. You stay there, Annie.
Casey! Come back here!
After I get a good look at that...
He's shooting at you! Your flashlight!
Shot it right out of my hand.
That was foolish, mister. You got no target now. Another miss, fella. Try again. Now, that gun flash gave me a target. Now I've got you.
Casey! Casey, where are you? I can't see! Answer me, Casey! Answer me! Oh!
And now back to Casey, crime photographer.
Sure you're okay, Annie?
Yeah, I didn't really black out, Casey. The wallop I got was just a glancing blow.
The welt on my head the size of...
Don't sit up. Sit still for a while. Don't try to move.
We got to get away from here, kid. That burning house is throwing out too much heat.
And smoke. Somebody's turned in a fire alarm. Yeah, the trucks are coming.
I hear 'em. And it'll be too late to salvage much from that little shack. Any evidence we might have found there is ashes by now.
The man who shot at us and slugged us set that fire.
Sure did. Annie, we may find out something more.
What you picked up?
A gun. A hot revolver with an empty cylinder.
Oh, that man dropped it after he hit us with it.
And it might tell us who he is.
Let's get it to Captain Logan.
Wait a minute, Annie. Wait. The firemen will be on the job in a minute. They'll cool off that little house in a hurry. I want to see what's in the ashes.
You say this guy Carfora was an engraver, Casey?
Well, that had been his trade, Logan, but the guy was essentially a hobbyist. And among other things, he went in for chemistry and photography. Annie and I saw the remains of some swell equipment in the ruins of his home.
Yeah, we checked our findings there with neighbors who'd known him, Captain. Nobody knew him really well, but we're told that his main interest was philately.
Stamp collecting, dumbbell.
Oh, stamp collecting. Well, anybody knows that.
Yeah, well, get the connection, though. Carfora was an absolute bug on stamps. He bought them constantly and is supposed to have owned some very rare books on the subject.
His collection apparently was destroyed by the fire.
And that fire was no accident, pal. It was set by the guy who slugged Dan and me.
Have you any idea why?
Captain Logan.
Yes, Sergeant?
I just got the report on the gun Casey found, sir.
Oh, good.
Swell.
Well, let's have it.
A permit for a revolver of this make and serial number was issued 6 months ago to Arthur Hyden.
Arthur?
Well, that's the youngest son and his father's favorite.
Arthur's the one who discovered Carfora's body. Sergeant, issue an order for the arrest of Arthur Hyden.
Wait a minute, Logan, will you? Before any arrests are made, before anyone's told about that gun or our identification of the stranger, let's have a talk with Robert Hyden.
The old man. Yeah. He could have used his kid's gun tonight. He's the big stamp man, and stamps are the link with Carfora. All right, let's have a talk with Robert Hyden.
This is an imposition, Captain. Well, why should I open my office to you at this time of night?
Because it affords more privacy than your living rooms upstairs, Mr. Hyden.
And we'd like to have privacy.
For more idiotic questions about the death of that unknown man, Mr. Casey?
We'll try to keep our questions a little short of idiotic.
You haven't up to now. But citizens must cooperate with the police, I suppose. Please step into my office. Ladies first, Miss Williams.
Thanks.
Now, what can I tell you that I haven't already told you before?
First, Mr. Hyden, what business did you do with Angelo Carfora?
Angelo Carfora?
Mm-hmm.
Is the name familiar?
Well, of course it is. I never forget a client, at least not a client who gave me cause to remember him, as this Carfora did.
Well, Casey, we didn't expect him to admit, no.
Well, tell us about Carfora.
Well, he did business with me for a long time, buying only seconds, stamps that are damaged in one way or another and worth only a fraction of normal value. But quite frequently, he submitted undamaged stamps for my opinion as to their genuineness. I found all of them to be forgeries, except the last one he sent, which was a perfect postmaster provisional. Oh, his business meant little to me in a monetary way, but he had a feeling for stamps, and I enjoyed his interesting letters. I never met the man personally, but...
You never met him?
No. Why do you ask me about Carfora? I thought you were only concerned about that murder.
Angelo Carfora was killed in your reception room this morning.
What?
He was the stranger.
This is incredible.
How long since you heard from Carfora?
At least a year, maybe 2 years. Why was he killed in my place?
Mr. Hayden, have you bought some very rare stamps in the last year or so? Stamps you paid a lot for?
Yes. Less than a month ago, I was lucky enough to get a Mauritius twopenny blue. Several weeks before that, I acquired a 9-pence lilac brown of Ceylon, and but you don't know about stamps. These are among the blue chips of philately. I paid a high price for them, but they were perfect specimens.
So who did you buy them from?
Well, I've made all my best buys lately through the.
That gunshot.
Slug got Hayden in the chest.
Fired from that doorway.
And then the door slammed shut.
Well, it's locked now. Lend me some of your weight, Casey.
Right.
That opened it. Miss Williams, see what you can do for Hayden while we try.
Help him!
Logan! I see. Break, you two. Break!
This gun was on the floor beside him, Logan. A hot gun.
It's Arthur's gun, Captain. I knocked it from his hand. You gave me no chance to explain, Uncle Ronald.
You can explain now, Mr. Arthur. Both this gat and the one you dropped at Carfora's place tonight.
But I don't know what...
I heard a shot. What's happened here?
Horace, your brother Arthur...
Shot his father.
Arthur? No, I didn't.
Captain Logan, I'm afraid nothing can be done for Hayden. He's dead.
Arthur Hayden, I'm placing you under arrest for murder.
No.
Hold it, Logan.
What?
Let's get this picture straight before you
The
arrest
picture's
anybody.
straight enough, Mr. Casey. I caught Arthur with the gun in his hand. But I didn't shoot him. I just picked up that gun when Uncle Ronald grabbed me.
Just picked it up?
Yes. I just come into this hall, through the street door in the back. And then I heard a shot and loud voices in Dad's office. I ran this way and I saw the gun on the carpet. Without thinking, I picked it up and just then...
Is that the best story you can think of, Arthur?
But it's true. Horace, I swear it's true.
Whereabouts in the hall were you, Mr. Ronald, when you saw Arthur with that gun?
At the foot of the back stairs. I was on the floor above, and when I heard that shot, I came down 3 steps at a time.
The shot brought you too, Horace?
Yes, down the front stairs.
Now, you were the first on the scene, Arthur. Did you see whoever dropped that gun?
No, he got away before This is nonsense. Nobody dropped that gun, and nobody got away.
My brother is the killer, Captain.
Sure, Casey, it's as plain
I don't agree.
Why not?
Because Hayden was killed to cover up the murder of Carfora. And Arthur doesn't fit the Carfora picture as I see it now.
Look, Casey, Arthur discovered Carfora's body. You were slugged with Arthur's gun outside Carfora's house. And now Mr. Arthur Hayden is found with the murder gun in his hand a few seconds after his father's been bumped off. What more do you want?
A probable link to Carfora.
But I don't understand.
Arthur, you got a check from your father today, didn't you?
Yes?
How big was it? What was it for?
It was for $2,000. I owed a gambling debt.
Again?
Okay, Horace, okay, I'm no good. Dad was always paying out money to get me out of trouble. The old man was my friend, as well as my father.
As my brother's favorite son, Arthur, will inherit most of Robert's estate.
But I never even thought of that.
If you did, you never needed Carfora.
But who is this Carfora?
A name isn't familiar to you, Mr. Ronald?
No.
How about you, Horace?
I never heard the name until you mentioned it.
You're a liar.
I beg your pardon?
How long were you your father's secretary?
About 10 years.
During those 10 years, like any confidential secretary, you opened your boss's mail, read it, and took his dictation when he answered it, didn't you?
Yes,
But you never heard the name of Carfora?
Hey, what is this?
You know what it is. Your father made you work while your brother was allowed to play. You hated both of them for that. You never had enough money. And through Carfora, you saw a way to make big money.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yes, you do. You played both your father and Carfora for suckers. It was easy to keep apart while you were on the job as secretary. But when you were taken sick and your uncle was put in your place, you foresaw trouble. You could think of only one way to avoid it. You knew Carfora would come to the office this morning. So you got out of bed against orders to be ready for him. When your uncle left the reception room to deliver that message about the Swedish stamp, you killed Carfora.
Oh, you're crazy. I was a mile away in a drugstore on Market Square when Carfora was killed. I talked to Uncle Ronald from a phone booth there.
Yes, he did, Mr. Casey.
How many phones are there in this big house, Mr. Ronald? Lines, I mean, not extensions.
Why, 3.
You used one of those 2 other lines to call the office line, Horace. You were nowhere near Market Square.
You can't prove that.
You know about the dermal nitrate test?
Dermal nitrate?
It'll show that you fired a gun tonight.
You're not going to send me to the chair?
Logan, drop that knife, Horace.
No, let me kill myself.
You don't read any easy way out. Here. Casey, hang on to this knife while I slip the handcuffs on him.
Okay, pal.
Why did you do it, Horace?
You've always had all the luck, Arthur. I've always been the fall guy. I was a fool to think I could change things.
But, Mr. Casey, I don't quite understand. Why did Horace kill my brother, and what was there between him and this man Carfora?
I don't get it either, Casey.
Neither do I.
Well, I'll tell all of you what Horace is going to put in his full confession after I take a lot of pictures.
We'll join our friends at the Blue Note in just a moment.
Did Casey call a turn on Horace's full confession in advance, Miss Williams?
Pretty nearly, Ethelbert.
Well, what was the Carfora setup, and how'd you know?
It was all very simple. To a mastermind.
Huh.
Carfora was a bug on philately. Stamps, that is, to you, Annie. He was a skilled engraver who had a lot of fine chemical and photographic equipment, and somebody wanted to destroy the place where he lived and worked.
All of which didn't mean much to your mastermind until our talk with Robert Hyden.
He supplied missing parts of the puzzle. Carfora, you see, through the mails, had bought a lot of rare stamps that were in reach of his pocketbook because they were damaged. He'd sent Hyden a lot of undamaged stamps for appraisal. In Hyden's expert opinion, all were forgeries except the last.
Which told the great Casey that Carfora had been trying to make perfect stamps by copying damaged ones and had finally succeeded.
You mean he was a stamp counterfeiter?
Yeah, that's right. But he didn't try to pass his counterfeits off as a genuine article, though. He wanted to sell them for what they were, perfect copies. But Horace was hit with a big idea. He made a deal with Carfora, and an exclusive secret deal, but in his father's name.
And then stamps for which he paid Carfora only a few dollars, he sold to his father and other collectors for thousands.
Gee, what a racket.
And like all crooked rackets, it couldn't last. Carfaro called to see old man Hyden, which would have exposed the whole setup, of course, so Horace had to kill Carfaro. Then he removed all identification from the little guy.
Which gave him time, as he thought, to set fire to Carfaro's house and then destroy all the evidence of his counterfeiting activities before the police could see the evidence and smell a rat.
Then Horace shot his old man to keep us from smelling the same rat.
And tried to frame his brother for both jobs. Nice guy.
Charming person.
Annie, it's lunchtime. Would you like to put on the feed bag with a really charming person?
Meaning, of course.
Oh, of course, but the great Casey.
Are you paying, or do we go Dutch, or must I lend you 10 until payday?
Now, that's a nice question.
Well, it's a fair one. Like all the masterminds of my acquaintance, you're usually broke.
Well, as a matter of fact, tonight I am.
No wonder.
What do you mean?
Well, he's been associating with stamp collectors all day.
What's that got to do with it?
Philately. Don't you get it? He's philately broke.
Oh,
Crime Photographer is produced and directed by John Dietz. It is written by Alonzo Dean Cole and is based on the fictional character of Flash Gun Casey, created by George Harmon Cox. Original music by Cy Fewer, and the program features Jan Miner as Anne and John Gibson as Ethelbert. Herman Chittison is the Blue Note pianist. This is Ken Roberts saying goodnight for Philip Morris, America's finest cigarette. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. I don't particularly care much for philately. I don't think I pronounced it right. Being used in a casual conversation like Ann did. Because essentially, if you can use a simple word, there's no reason to use a $10 word. Other than to make yourself look smart and others less smart. And Casey really fell in for that just so that he could prove that he knew what it meant. Of note here from BlueNoteBulletin.blogspot.com, the fact that the stamp in question was owned by an exiled king was actually based on a real incident. There was a famous stamp owned by King Carol II of Romania, and he would actually sell the stamp in 1950. Listener comments and feedback now. Rob emails in, "Hello from a campground in South Alabama. Started listening to your videos on YouTube because I love old-time radio, and you doing an intro and outro makes it even better. Bought Slime Incorporated audiobook and just finished it. I wanted to reach out and tell you how much I enjoyed it, brother." Well, thanks so much, Rob. I appreciate you listening and also picking up Slime Incorporated. I really enjoyed writing that book and hope to find a way to get back to Cole Eustick and the other characters. I like to think I do have a sequel somewhere inside. Again, thanks so much for emailing in. And now I do want to go ahead and thank our Patreon supporter of the day. Thank you to Laura, Patreon supporter since April 2018, currently supporting the program at the rookie level of $2 or more per month. Again, thanks so much for your support, Laura. And that will actually do it for today. If you are enjoying this on YouTube, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and mark the notification bell. Casey Crime Photographer will be back on Saturday, and then again next Monday. But join us back here tomorrow for Mr. Chameleon, where...
No, I won't do it. You had no business to come here and threaten me this way.
What's that?
What's Louise? And someone must be with her.
I'll come here as often as I please, and you won't make trouble for me. Not after tonight.
It's Cliff, John's half-brother. What's he doing here? How dare he come here this way? How dare he? Cliff.
Well, Andrea, what a pleasant surprise. We didn't expect you home for hours.
Louise, how did he get in here?
He was here when I got back from the movies, Andrea. He let himself in with a skeleton key.
What?
Sure I did. I thought I'd take a look around. I'm trying to find out who killed poor John.
You mean you were after money? He asked me for money, Andrea. And then he started saying terrible things about John and me again.
All of them true. John himself told me you were so crazy in love with him, you scared him to death.
Be quiet and get out.
Oh, I know. You're so loyal, Andrea. Just the way you were loyal to your chiseler of a husband.
I said get out. I'm fully convinced it was you who killed John. It was just too bad the police couldn't hold you.
Well, let me tell you something. I heard from certain friends of mine that a man named Chameleon has been put on the job. The smartest detective in the business. You never know when he's around. You never know. Anyway, somebody better start watching his step.
And what are you so scared of, old boy? Or shouldn't I ask?
What?
And where did you hear this rumor? Do you have friends in the underworld, eh?
Who the devil are you? Andrea, who is he?
This is a friend of mine, Mr. Whitlock. Larry, this is Cliff Shepard. And this is my secretary, Louise Clark.
How do you do, Mr. Whitlock?
How do you do? And as for you, old boy, I wish I could say I was glad to meet you, but I'm sure you wouldn't want me to tell a lie now, would you? Huh?
Very funny. Where'd you pick up this character, Andrea? Consoling yourself pretty quickly, aren't you?
Listen, old boy.
And don't call me old boy. I might suddenly decide to slap you down.
Oh, really? You mean like this?
Larry!
Mr. Whitlock!
What did you do to me?
I hope you'll join us then. In the meantime, do send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives, and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.